Now, without further ado, let's begin our forum. To set the stage, it is my pleasure to introduce our moderator for today, Dr. Ho Xiao Chui, consultant pediatrician and pediatric endocrinologist at Island Hospital, Penang. Dr. Ho brings deep expertise in pediatric diabetes and growth disorders and has dedicated her career to advancing children's health and well-being. With her thoughtful, steady leadership, we are honored to have her guide today's conversation. Opening our speaker lineup is Ms. Kok Siu Yen, a passionate advocate for children with special needs and the chairman of the National Autism Society of Malaysia, CLANG, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting individuals with autism and their families. As a mother to a son with autism, she brings heartfelt understanding to the challenges and triumphs faced by families. She has championed community events, workshops, teacher trainings under Malaysia's Program Pendidikan Khas Integrasi to strengthen inclusive classroom practices and empower educators to better support children with special needs. Building on that spirit of inclusion, please welcome Miss Ashley Pang, a devoted mother of two, including Alex, her 15-year-old son born with Down syndrome, and a 3-year-old daughter. Ashley is the founder of Molly Manners Malaysia, where she teaches etiquette and character to children aged 4 to 18, while also advocating strongly for early intervention and inclusive communities. In 2024, both she and Alex were honored with the Tuanku Bainon Young Changemaker Awards for their inspiring Project Kindness. Bringing to you a clinical lens, our next speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Subhashini Jayanath, is a distinguished developmental pediatrician from the University of Malaya Medical Center, whose work has greatly advanced understanding and care for children with developmental and learning disorders. She established the Child Development Center at UMMC, developed Malaysia's national subspecialty training criteria, and authored several key publications, including Autism in Short, a handbook for parents. Beyond her clinical and academic contributions, Dr. Subhashini serves on national and international platforms, shaping the future of inclusive child development. Continuing with a practitioner builder of pathways, we are delighted to introduce Ms. Chow Jo Ann, co-founder of Employ Able. With over a decade as an educator, she designs pre-employment programs that build real-world skills and confidence for neurodivergent youth. Holding master's degree in special education and primary teaching, also a bachelor's in psychology, she's also coaches companies as a corporate trainer and consultant to create truly inclusive workplaces. Thank you to all our distinguished speakers for being with us today. So we are truly privileged to have such a diverse panel of advocates, professionals, and change makers. Don't you agree? Each bringing their own perspective and experience in supporting the special needs and neurodivergent community. With that, let's begin our forum. Dr. Ho, the floor is yours.
Welcome to our Women Peace Fiesta 2025. And today's forum is theme, Building an Inclusive and Caring Society, Cherishing Diverse Abilities and Neurodiversity. So before we begin, what does the word inclusive mean? What is an inclusive society? Well, it is one where everyone is respected regardless of their abilities and feels valued and empowered to live happily, isn't it? So before we begin, I would like to ask all of us here a very simple question. How many of you personally know someone who is neurodivergent or with a different ability? Please show your hands. Yes. Okay. Please look around us. Okay. So this shows us something very important. Inclusion should not be just an abstract idea. Okay. It should be because we are all interconnected and it is part of us. So it does matter to all of us. So that's why we are here today. So let's move on. We have 4 main sections to our talk today. The first one, diagnosis and access to support. Number 2, debunking myth and addressing stigma. And number 3, life beyond school, with employment and independence. What is the future like? Number 4, bringing it together with community action. And there will be a short Q&A session if time permits. So let's begin with our first section, diagnosis and access to support. So, Dr. Subhashini, as a pediatric developmental specialist, some people in the audience might not fully understand. Please explain, what does neurodivergent means?
Thank you, Dr. Ho. I think when we think of neurodivergence, it's important to remember that it's just something that's different from what we consider neurotypical. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's abnormal, it's just a difference, and it relates to differences in ways of thinking. And sometimes people who are neurodivergent have very original ways of thinking, things like lateral thinking, thinking out of the box. So it can be a gift in a way. It's not necessarily something that we should consider that is not normal. So it can manifest as behavioral differences, and that's usually what people notice. But sometimes people associate it with things like autism spectrum disorder or autism and ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. But it's also important to remember that it's not just associated with these conditions as well. It's just that often it may manifest in people who have a developmental condition, or you may see neurodivergence in otherwise typically developing people who have traits as well.
So it can be a gift as well, you mentioned, isn't it? Yeah. So what are some of the early signs that parents need to look out for to suggest that, their child is neurodivergent?
I think that's something that parents often ask because they worry about these sorts of things. It's important for us to remember that we don't want to label people as immediately saying that, if you have any traits which are atypical, that you're immediately neurodivergent, because all of us will have some neurodivergence in some shape or form. It's just that it may not be manifest or may not be so obvious. So things that we are concerned about because it can affect development will be things like talking late or not communicating as you would expect them to communicate at their given age. Also, sometimes these children don't seem to listen, but we need to make sure that we are not missing hearing impairment, because that's something that you really cannot gloss over. And if it is present, it needs to be addressed early because it can affect speech otherwise. Also, some of these children do not like being around other children, or they like being around select children or select people because it could be a sensory concern that maybe certain situations or certain people trigger them and they feel uncomfortable. So that's another thing that we sometimes see. Also, hyperactivity. Many kids who have ADHD present with hyperactivity, but even kids who have autism or traits of autism can present with hyperactivity as the main feature that we see. Also, not responding to their name is something which you would consider unusual, particularly if, say, a child doesn't respond by the time they're 18 months. That would be unusual. The other thing is not being able to follow the direction of point. So, for example, if I were to point at the back and say, look there, we would expect that most of us would be able to zone in on where I'm pointing. So that's something that we expect: joint attention and gaze tracking. The other thing is liking to arrange things in a certain way or wanting things in a particular way and being a bit upset when things don't go the way they want. So noticing differences is not necessarily a bad thing. They could just be observant. But if it causes distress or it makes them uncomfortable, that's when we consider it unusual. And also things like repetitive movements. Excuse me, sorry. So movements which are repetitive in nature and that you see again and again. Those are some of the things that we notice, as well as sensory differences. So being either overly or undersensitive to certain things.
So I guess being a pediatrician myself, one of the most common ones I see is a speech delay. That's one of the things that to look out for. Okay. So what are the resources available locally?
There are lots of resources available online, externally outside Malaysia, but I think that's an important question because we want to see what's relatable to us here. There are a few resources, but I'd like to just highlight maybe these three. One is NASOM. The NASOM website has a lot of information there. There's a lot of information on what autism is, as well as resources that they have, and the kind of support and training that is available. So not just for very young children for early intervention, but also for older kids and young people who need training, vocational training, skills-based training. So I think there's a wealth of information on the NASOM website. The other thing is, if you look at the Malaysian Autism Resource Foundation, so this was started by a pediatrician, and she's also done this with some other pediatricians and other doctors. And they've actually collated a very nice resource there because they have it both in English as well as Malay, but they also have a Mandarin section. And I think a lot of the information is relevant to everyone, but they go by age and they go by information based on needs as well. So, for example, if your child has anxiety, there's a section on that. If they need help with language or, when they're not neurotypical, there's also a section of what you can do about language. The other one is Project Hans, and the reason I mentioned this is it's because it was set up by a mother, and she actually has collated a lot of resources as well as services on their website. And they also do have training and online webinars and things for parents, which I think are useful because drawing on other parents for support is actually sometimes more useful than the information the doctors can give you because they probably have lived experience which they can share.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Hans project is something really an initiative, isn't it? Very good resource. Okay, thank you, Dr. Shuba. So very informative. So now let's hear from our parents, the most powerful voices. Okay, so Xiu Yan and Ashley. So raising a neurodivergent child brings joy and also challenges, isn't it? So what are your biggest what are the biggest challenges you faced in accessing help, and how did you overcome them? So, Xiu Yan.
Good afternoon, everyone. My son Caden, he's 8 years old now. From the slide, as you can see, he is 3 months old and 6 months old. And my husband and I, at the very young age of him, during his early childhood development, we noticed that he have the milestone development delay. So we decided to seek for professional advice, and so the day has arrived, and the child development specialist told us that perhaps this is the first time we being daddy mommy, right? You overthink your child is just a typical kid. So this was the first diagnosis, a possibility. So somehow as a parents, we have the parental instinct in our heart. We feel that like something not right, and also because of the red flags of the milestone development, we decided to pursue second opinion. So I just want to share in Malaysia, the waiting list, or the waiting time to see a child development specialist is ranging between 6 months to about 2 years. Depends, right? You are going to private hospital or government hospital. So we waited for quite a period of time, and finally it's the day, and the doctor, after assessment with Kaden, he told us that he actually he has autistic. So as a new parents, it's really shock to us. It's a big news to us. So my heart broke, and a lot of things like spinning in my mind. Is like firstly I also asked, like, what did I do wrong? Did I add anything that I'm not supposed to eat during my 10 months pregnancy? I start to ask myself a lot of things. Then the feeling of like guilt, sad, depressed, and also grief, is like is very sad. So then my husband also, he also like told me that he's very confused. Now our emotion of feeling is like roller coaster. So actually it's yes or no. Because the first doctor told us was he's just a typical kid, we think too much. And now the second one said that he is diagnosed. So after discussion, we decided to seek for the third opinion. Okay, because our parental instinct told us that we need to seek for professional help. So as you know, we have to wait. The waiting list is long. So this time the third appointment is 6 months. But I just want to share, this 6 months is like 6 years to us. Every day, like we are waiting. The appointment is like in December. So now it's only like end of May. So every day is like a month to us. So I'm very grateful that through prayers, a lot of prayers, chanting, and through reading my mentor, Dr. Daisaku Ikeda encouragement, it really bring up my life condition and my husband as well, and that give us the courage to move on. And I noticed that the more we read the encouragement or the topics related to neurodivergence, to understand more about this subject, I start to realize actually I'm not the cause of my son autistic. I start to realize that he is just being he himself. So the self blame, the guilt, has gone. So and I told myself for Caden's sake, for my family's sake, Xuyan, you need to be strong. So yeah, yeah. Then time flies, and the third appointment date has arrived. And this time, after the assessment, the doctor told us that parents, your son is diagnosed with autism. So with the abundance of prayers and also the encouragement that we read, that 6 months was really, really meaningful. This time we are more steady and also very calm. So we listened to the doctor advice that he referred us to go to several type of therapies, such as occupation therapies, speech therapies, ABA therapies, and also each of the therapies, the appointment is not fixed, right? It depends on the hospital appointment availability slot, and also we have to wait, for our turn. It's like depends which day. Almost every day we have appointment. So I make a big decision that time that for my son's sake, I want to give him the full support, and I don't want to miss the golden time, means the critical development period of my son. So I took a career break. So and I also want to thanks my husband, as you can see in the slide, that he was there for me, all this while. And yeah, and I just want to summary up that the most challenge time for me is indeed like accurate diagnosis. This is the first step of any parents, and also the long waiting time. So my hope is I hope there is more child development specialists, like back then and or even now. So yeah, Ashley, you want to share? Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Ashley. I have a son. His name is Alex, born with Down syndrome. As you can see from the slide, a very cute, adorable baby. But now he's no more baby. He's already 15 years old. So for me, well, like Xiu Yan, we do have our challenges. I would say the initial challenge phase was how to stay positive after being diagnosed. So Alex was born premature. It was only about 2 months while he was still in the baby ICU. The news was brought to us. So that moment, well, it was a bit shocking for me. I cried a lot and tried to look for a lot of information from internet, from the literature. But in those days, 15 years ago, whatever you read about Down syndrome is all negative. Nobody talk about anything that is hopeful or give you inspirations. And then after many, many days of crying, I decided, hey, mama, stop crying. You got to be strong. You got to be supporting this baby and also the family. I'm very grateful. I have a very supportive husband, very loving, and he was truly my pillar in those difficult times. And also, I'm very grateful to have a very good ONG doctor. Right after his diagnosis, she called me for a very, very good counseling. So I'm very grateful for this and friends and also family member that supported me. And I remember the only positive news that could manage to find was this gentleman, as you can see from the slide. His name is Sujit Desai. He's a multi-talented musician. He plays 7 instruments as a professional musician and also is a Special Olympic medalist. So for me, it was like, wow, he gave me that ray of hope. I was really looking forward to have more news like this. And what really triggered my change of mindset after being initially diagnosed was actually when my son was fighting with pneumonia just at 3 months old, being a heart patient, being a premature born with Down syndrome. So I read the words of encouragement from my mentor, Dr. Daisaku Ikeda, and I would like to quote. It says, cheerfully and boldly, fearlessly and resolve, walk your own path. I received this folder from a family friend, Dr. Christopher Boy, who is also a pediatrician from University of Malaya. So it meant a lot to me, and it actually enabled me to have a very firm determination at that point of time after reading the words. And I made a vow, a determination on behalf of my son. He will grow up just living the words of our mentor, Daisaku Ikeda. And then that change of mindset and determination to raise him just like a typical child enable me and my husband to face various challenges after challenges and also to reach milestone after milestone together to support our son. And the next challenge I faced initially was how to get him accepted in an inclusion school together with neurotypical children. As I mentioned, I vowed to raise him just like a typical child. So we were looking for kindergarten, and at the beginning, nobody actually wanted to take him just by the way he looked, even without any assessment. And it was very painful as a mother. I see my son, beautiful son with full potential, but nobody believed in him. And I was very, very grateful. I have friends that come over, neighbor, they are searching for school for my son. And finally, after some searching, we found a very good Montessori school that accepted him. And later on, when he moved on to primary school and eventually secondary school, he was also accepted in another private inclusion school. So we, as his parent, along this way, we learn about his strength, his weaknesses. We also adapt his way of learning, his pace, and also style. So then we give him the support. We work together with his therapists, the teachers, and also doctors to bring out the full potential of this child. Yeah.
Well done, both parents, turning the challenges really into something positive, isn't it? And to view things not it's not from not a problem but a challenge that we all have to face. Well done. So so what has been the most helpful form of support you've received, and what support do you wish was more available, Ashley?
I'm very fortunate because we have very good doctors, two of them, my pediatrician and also my ONG. So they open up the path for us right upon the diagnosis. My pediatrician prepared all the documents to help Alex to apply for OKU card, a disability card, and also my ONG shared with me inspiring story about all the children that she knows personally born with Down syndrome. And with that, we also get into contact with the Kiwanis Down Syndrome Foundation, where they provide heavily subsidized therapies and early learning opportunity from 0 age to 6 years old. So this helped us a lot. And then also, I'm very thankful to the Kiwanis Down Syndrome Foundation as well as Sao Seng Lam Foundation. So these two organizations for the first 8 years of Alex's life really helped us to sail through all these stormy, challenging years by providing affordable and also very routine, good training and therapy session. They also provide a lot of resources like toys, tools, even books and activity for parents and children. And as well as I would say, the parent support group from the school of Kiwanis, they share their journey with us. Like what Sue mentioned, at the beginning, we are lost, but because we are able to see example of how other children born with neurodivergent are raised, and it gives us the hope. And they also organize health check on the yearly basis, like Kiwanis, they do year check, eye check, and also hearing check. And they bring in expert to share about this. The school that accepted him, I'm forever grateful for them. And then for me, actually, even now and back then, to be able to access to subsidized therapy is very, very rare, especially if you're out from Klang Valley. So cost is very high in private sector and waiting queue is extremely long in government sector. Even if you have a chance to have a session arranged for you, probably 3 to 4 times a year, you might not be able to see the same therapies. So here I would like to take the opportunity to thank Dr. Subashini, pediatrician developmental pediatrician. We have people like healthcare worker that specialize in neurodivergent care. So really help us a lot. And as Alex is actually moving into teenagehood, he's really a teenage now. So one area that I'm looking forward to have is that transition training from a teen into adulthood, how to provide them living skill, life skill, and also vocational school. So I'm very, very happy that Joanne is also here from Employable. So she will be sharing this aspect. So these are my sharing. Thank you very much.
For me, I'm very grateful to my mom, to my mother. She accepted Caden who he is right after I conveyed the message that about Caden Dinox, and my mom told me that the very first thing is girl, just raise Caden as any typical kids, like them, just raise him like a typical kids. And I'm very grateful to my mother that through rainy day and sunny day, she's always there for us. So I like to say thank you very much, mommy. So my mom also she's the best grandma in the world to us, and also the best mother, definitely. So she also a very active advocates, in our local chapter, um and she's an active positive advocate. So uh so you can see that she's happily carrying Caden in the photos there as well. And she celebrate every be it small or big milestone that Caden achieve. I also like to take this opportunity to thank you all the good people, along the way, my family members, my best friends, um the therapies, Kaden, that attend speech therapies, ABA therapies, and therapies. We have the best therapists that, good fortune to have them. And also Nazum, dedicated teacher. Yeah, thank you very much to the doctor as well. So my wish is, what is my wish? My wish is will be have more child development specialists, so all the children, have the opportunity to get to see the assessment, to, if they want, so that the waiting time will be shorter, compared to back then. So this is my wish. Thank you.
Thank you, Suyan. Thank you, Ashley. Yes, so heartfelt, isn't it? So definitely getting the right support from inside and outside, our family definitely helps. So, what advice would you give other parents who are just starting this journey, Suyan?
So dear parents, I just want to share with you, so when you heard about the Dinox, right? So Dinox doesn't label our child, right? Dinox is just for us to be able to support our child with their needs. So your children is not broken. Your children does not have any diseases. Your children does not have any illnesses. This is just because that their brain works differently. But this is okay, totally okay. So first thing is seek help from professionals. Okay, go and see a child development specialist, right? Talk to them. They will guide you along the way. They will give you a lot of resources and support. And join a parent support group. This is very useful. Learn from like those daddy mommy that, they went through, they are very experienced, they are very open and willing to share with you. And yes, the initial stage is very painful. Your heart broke. I myself already don't know cry how many days, uncountable days. But it's okay. Once you know the situation, once you know about your son condition, once you equip yourself with knowledge, knowledge is really power. And you were able to accept your own child. This is for sure. So while they might be have some milestone delay, okay, so it's okay. Apply positive parenting. Raise your child just like any other typical kids, okay, and with early intervention. with your love and support, your child will definitely improve day by day. As you can see in the slide here, Caden's photo, he is very diligently every day sure got one therapy one. Either is speech therapy, occupation therapy, ABA therapy every day. So with his never give up spirit, actually he really touched my heart, and his spirit teach me and teaches me that we are in together and none of us will give up. So remember to celebrate each small or big achievement with your child.
And I would like to share from my experience of raising Alex. I would say acceptance would be the very first important step. Why? Because acceptance allows us to see beyond the disability of our child and to love our child unconditionally. And I would like to repeat the same words I heard from my doctor during my counseling session. She told me, she said, Ashley, raise your son just like a typical child, and he will be like one. So I hold these words dearly in my heart. And sharing from my experience, I agree with Siu Yan. We seek help from therapists, from doctors, and also at the same time, work together, get to know other parents. Yeah, learn from their experience. These are experience that you cannot buy or cannot read from books. It's real life experience. And then also from my case is Alex. I let him join activities with neurotypical children in our community. I never try to hide him or overprotect him. I just let him try. Why? I want to raise him just like how all the other mother raise your children. And then I would see that he's even though he has developmental delay, gradually he's able to narrow down and to build the confidence. So I would say always also let our children try something new. Never limit them due to the condition. Let them really bloom, like what Dr. Angela was saying. They all have their own time to bloom at the right moment. So for me, I would say parents, we continue to read, we continue to learn, and we grow together with our children. And share your journey with people around you. Why? Because then you will get more support and also build up advocacy around us. And this journey is not alone. You're not walking in this journey alone. So we create the awareness and also to get the support. And that's why we're here today. Yeah, that's my sharing.
Thank you, Siu Yan and Ashley, for sharing such a personal journey. You can see that both of them are oozing with positivity, isn't it? To raise, children, their own children. So let's turn to Joanne. So Ashley did mention, about her challenges with inclusive schools, and from your perspective, as an educator and a current job coach. So where can parents get help in terms of education?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Hi. Okay, so there are many sectors and pathways that parents can access educational support and therapy. However, I won't really go into too much detail so I don't look like I'm promoting one over the other, but I will just give you a brief overview of where you can go. So, firstly, down the government pathway, we have the program Pendidikan Khas Integrasi Inclusive. So that's like your inclusive classrooms in a mainstream school setting. So there are some sekolah menengah here that have a PPKI class. So that is like a classroom for students with disabilities. And then you have Pusat Pemulihan Dalam Community, the PPDK, and that is your community-based rehab centers. So these are in out of Klang Valley. They have a lot of it in little pockets around like kampongs. So actually, like what Ashley says, right? It's really hard to access support for a lot of families, especially if you are of a lower income families. So, these PPDKs could be very helpful where you can go to find therapy support and certain skills-based training. For the older individuals, you have IKBN, which is your Institute Kemahiran Belia Negara, or your Bengkel Daya. So Bengkel Daya has actually, if I'm not mistaken, boarding. You can go there and board for, I think, about 3 to 4 months while you do their training. So these are for older individuals for very vocational and skills-based training. And lastly, you can also check out Permata Kunia, which is a government-based organization catering to the younger children for early intervention programs. Okay, then there's the private and NGOs pathway. So of course you have your usual private and international schools where you either have like an inclusion classroom or they have separate classrooms for children with disabilities and neurodivergent children. Then you can also go to multidisciplinary centers. So that's like your one-stop shop in a way where you can go and access therapy or support from different professionals under one setting. So it's more like an integrated setting, right? Because in every therapist or professional can work together. They all know the case of each child, and then it's more integrated and holistic. And then the private centers, so that one they offer full day school programs based off an IEP, which is an individualized education plan. And then, of course, you have NGOs such as NASOM and KDSF, as Suyen and Ashley have mentioned, among other NGOs as well. And then companies like Employable who provide employment training pathways. So there's really like a whole range, right? And then lastly, there's therapies, as the moms have mentioned as well. So your usual speech therapy, occupational therapy, we have sensory integration, play therapy, art therapy. There's so many therapies out there that you can access. And I think very popular is the ABA therapy programs, which a lot of the private centers offer for the younger children. Yeah, so that's the whole range. But I also want to, I think, tell this to parents. At the end of the day, it's always a lot of trial and error to try to find the best fit for your child. So don't give up. Like Ashley and Zian, like they didn't give up, they persisted. There is always going to be a fit. You just need to find the right fit. So don't give up and don't feel discouraged if your child doesn't go down an academic pathway. That's not the only pathway. So there's a lot of avenues for them.
Yes, thank you. I think that's really true, isn't it? It's trial and error, and also, just the best fit for them. I think that's true. Okay, so in school, what does true inclusion in classroom really mean for neurodivergent students?
Okay, this is a very big question with a lot of answers. So I have tried to narrow it down for all of us based on my own personal take on what would true inclusion mean in classrooms. And I would like to echo on what Ashley and Sian have mentioned, that we need to raise our neurodivergent individuals as you would any neurotypical individual. Okay, so firstly, to me, true inclusion would be where all students, regardless of their abilities, are truly seen for who they are and what they can do. So I think when in general, when we think of a neurodivergent or a disabled person, the default thinking is always like, oh, so and so cannot do this. So and so has this issue. Oh, no lah, no. It's all very negative, right? And there's a tagline or the saying that goes, see the ability, not the disability. So we are asking everybody to move away from looking at the deficits, move away from what they cannot do, but look at what they can do. So we focus on their strengths. And you see these differences as strengths and not as a bad thing. So I think that is something that we can all take away. Then when you have that mindset shift in the classroom, that also inadvertently cultivates that kind of mindset among the other peers, among the other teachers, and then just throughout the whole school. And when you see that happen, I think you really find that the neurodivergent students feel a really deep sense of belonging and of being valued. And that's what we want, right? We want them to be seen as any other person in society. So when they are feeling valued, they feel like their teachers are seeing them for their abilities and believing in them, their confidence also grows. And I'm sure just like you and me, when we feel seen, then we feel good about ourselves. Our confidence grows, we do better at things. So that would be like really great in schools. And third, having accessible and equitable learning methods or pathways. So not everybody learns the same way. I'm sure even here among ourselves, some of us learn better visually, auditorily, with hands-on practice, with a bit more how to say, like, structure. So being able to cater for these different learning styles would be really inclusive. We even give students different ways to kind of like demonstrate their understanding and knowledge. So the usual way is like, okay, everybody write an essay or something like that, right? Like very like always just write down something. But what if we gave them different ways, like why don't you come up and do a presentation, speak about it, different creative outlets, or even just typing it out on the computer. So those differentiated ways and flexible learning environments would give everybody access to learning. And then lastly, while I think the teachers are in position to create these lessons and make sure that's accessible learning for everybody, it's very important that the management and leadership team of the schools are actually fully on board, because it won't really be useful if one class does it and then when the student moves on, there's kind of no follow through. So to be able to have policies in place to mandate that accessibility and equitability would be a huge step forward. Yeah, so that's what I think.
Thank you, Joanne. I think it's very important to change our mindset, isn't it? Like what Joanne was saying, to see the ability, not the disability. And I think every day in our life, we look at our children, all the negativity will come out. He cannot do this. Why he did this lah. So we have to be more positive. Every child is unique. So positive parenting, positive teaching. It's all. It's all of us are involved. We are all in it. Okay, thank you, Joanne. So let's move on to the section 2. Yep, section 2. We will be talking about debunking myths and addressing stigma. So back to Dr. Subhashini. So from the medical perspective, what are some of the most common myths you encounter about neurodivergent children or adults?
I think there are lots of myths that we come across, but one of the main ones that we always hear is that some families or some parents have been told that other people don't want their children in the same class as their kids, and that's like something like what Joanne said. I think that's really, it can be. I'm sure it's very hurtful to hear, and it's also very inaccurate, because a lot of times kids learn different things from their peers, and all kids can learn from each other. It doesn't mean that just because they're neurodivergent, the other children will be badly influenced. It can work both ways, with any individual. So sometimes when a diagnosis is given, people sometimes assume that because a child is neurodivergent, they must automatically be put in a special class. And that's not correct as well, because a lot of kids can manage in the mainstream. And technically, the mainstream should adapt to allow these kids to be part of it. That's what you call true inclusion. And that's something which, of course, some schools can support, some can't, but that's something that we need to not accept, that they have to be in a special class. Also, recently there's been a lot of things in the media. People are saying a lot of inaccurate things again, and that's making people think that neurodivergent people are violent. And that's actually very, very rare, and it's not something that we want to perpetuate as as a belief. It's a wrong conception about these things. There are lots of reasons for people being violent, and neurodivergence is a very small reason for that, and it's not always the case. Also, sometimes people feel that if you're neurodivergent, you cannot be employed. At times, I think the people who are more perfectionistic and more neurodivergent may actually be your best employees. They'll show up on time. They'll do things when you're supposed to do it. They're not going to do all this chit chat. They'll get things done. So it may not actually be a bad thing. You just have to place people in jobs that appeal to them and that they'll be good at. Thinking that people are not capable is also another myth. And again, I think Ashley and Julian mentioned about thinking that it's a disease. People say that, so it's not a disease. There's no cure. We don't need a cure because it's not a disease. And I think a lot of people look for cures when they shouldn't be looking for that. And there are also some unethical people who perpetuate these kinds of things because they make a profit out of it. So recently, if you've been following the news, I know there's been a lot of chatter about this kind of thing, things like acetaminophen, folinic acid, all those sorts of things as cures for autism. And I think we have to be very neutral and evidence-based about this. We have to look at the data and the evidence objectively. So don't believe everything you hear. Just the loudest voice is not always the correct one. And that's why a group of us actually under Developmental Peace, we decided to write a statement on this, which is on the Academy of Medicine website. So if you have time, I think it would be good to have a look at that. It addresses some of these myths that we've come across. So things like stem cell therapy, hyperbaric oxygen, all those things which can cause a lot of harm. But I think when you're desperately looking for something, parents tend to do what they think is best. And I don't think it's their fault. The fault is the people who are perpetuating these myths.
Yes, absolutely true. In my practice as well, parents who are pregnant coming to ask, "Can I take paracetamol anymore?" Or parents coming asking for allergy testing when their child is autistic. So that's the challenge, isn't it? So how can we help the public to better understand that neurodiversity is not a problem but part of human variation?
It's something which we can all play a role in. It's not just that you issue a statement and people will learn or they will follow that. But education occurs at every level, so a lot of people are involved in that. And then doctors, of course, are one source of that. But I think educators, early childhood educators in particular, families, parents, self advocates, all play a big role. We need to ensure that people understand that this is a different way of thinking, a different way of being, but it's not necessarily something to be feared and it's not wrong. And also talking about myths, we have to debunk them in a timely way rather than letting it take on its own life. So like for a very long time, people thought that the MMR vaccination caused autism, and it took decades for that to, for people to understand that. And then now, of course, certain things have been a few steps in the back. So I think we need to be very clear about these things. Also, explaining differences to young children is important, because if you know a young child, usually they're very, very accepting of other people. Their friend is their friend. It doesn't matter what they look like, what they do, how they speak. It really doesn't matter to them. So when you have inclusive education when they're young, they tend to understand and accept things. And I think tolerance is the wrong word, because tolerance is you're just like, oh, okay, that's fine. But accepting something is truly understanding what it is and not thinking of it as being different. So recognizing and celebrating strengths, like Joanne mentioned, that's very important. And sometimes as doctors, we have to point that out to families, because it's also, it can be a habit. If you keep looking at something positive, eventually you will start being a bit more positive. But if you're always focusing on the negative, then it ends up being a habit as well. And we all have to accept that we have limitations. It doesn't necessarily mean only neurodivergent people have limitations. We all do. But we also have a lot of strengths.
Yes. So starting from really young as well, like you said, isn't it? Yeah, from school, kindergarten. Yep. So how do you address stigma and cultural barriers that prevent families from seeking help?
Okay, so this is another thing which is important, because some of the false assumptions can cause people to feel a lot of guilt. Sometimes families feel that they did something wrong, or they didn't do something, or they ate something during pregnancy or took some medication. And that's not something that you should think of lightly, because a careless comment by a doctor can cause a lot of distress. And it's important that we explain to people that you mustn't fear a diagnosis, because a diagnosis sort of gives you an explanation as to what it is you can do so that you're able to move forward. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. At the same time, sometimes people feel that they did something wrong in other ways, which society tends to perpetuate. So we need to understand, to be supportive about that, and not portion blame. Also, knowledge is important, because I think the more you understand, probably the less you judge, right? So that's important. We also need to acknowledge parents' concerns. A lot of times, healthcare professionals can be dismissive, and I think that's actually it's very unfair. And if you were that person, would you like to be dismissed? At the same time, they end up second guessing themselves, when often parents and teachers actually know better, because they're the ones with the kids all the time. So understanding that, validating their concerns is important. And they give us a lot of information which we would otherwise not have access to. Also, answering questions sensitively is important. So, how a diagnosis is delivered, how we explain things is also important. It's not just about, it's not just black and white. This is the diagnosis. That's it. Bye bye. That's not. It's the beginning, not the end. Also, speaking to everyone involved in care is important. If there's a grandparent or another person who's involved in the care, or another parent, you need to speak to them together, because everyone should be on the same page. And again, I think I mentioned about educators, but that's very important, because we've actually had quite a number of kindergarten teachers or preschool teachers who've noticed things, and because they're in a way, their voice is heard by parents, the parents then feel confident to come and get an assessment.
Yeah, thank you. So I think, like you said, family as well, grandparents. So sometimes when we see parents and the child in clinic, I think it's very important for the grandparents, because in Malaysia, a lot of grandparents look after the children themselves, isn't it? Okay. So back to our parents. So Ashley, so what misconceptions do you wish the public would unlearn, or would like the public to understand better?
Back to what Doctor just mentioned, I have been asked that is Down syndrome a disease? Can your son be cured? So actually, Down syndrome is not a disease. It's just that the child is born with a genetic condition that has extra copy of chromosome 21. That's why it's called trisomy. And each child, even though you're born with Down syndrome, is different. So I've been asked many times, they ask me, what did you eat during your pregnancy? Yeah, can your child talk? Can your child go to toilet? People have a lot of preconception that a child born with Down syndrome, they are like that. They cannot be independent, they cannot learn, they cannot talk, they cannot eat. They even ask, will he hit you? Is it violent? So these are all misconception. And some even tell me, I feel sorry that you have a child born with Down syndrome. I say, no, I have an awesome child. You don't have to feel sorry for me. Actually, it's true. I'm very grateful to my son, have given me and my husband a lot of opportunity to learn, and then also to look at things differently. Yeah. And from my own experience, you can see the slide over here. This is my son now in the recent year. So instead of looking at things that he cannot do, well, we nurture him and we look at area that he can achieve little by little. He does have developmental gap, but I would say with very consistent early intervention in place and also a lot of encouragement, so our child can actually excel. I can't play piano. He's playing piano. He's playing drum. He's doing martial art. He can swim. So these are the things that I hope parents and grandparents or even educators who are here today, open up your eye, unlabel. Don't look at neurodivergent as something very, very pessimistic. Unopen that label to get to know them. Then you will be part of advocacy effort to create a greater inclusive for our children.
For me, the idea of our autistic children living in their own world, this is a misconception. Actually, our children is just living in the same world like you and me. So, um, just that their brain works differently. That's why many times their perception, their thinking is very unique. So I just want to share with you my experience. I teach Caden piano, so he can play very basic children song. So many times he surprised me by his own unique thinking, so that he able to improvise himself the children's song, and he was invited for like inclusive performance, at 7 years old itself. So I will encourage that actually to me it's just that the brain work differently, but this is thinking out of the box. Actually, it's a good thing. Um, I would like to share also. Um, I like to read a lot of like neurodivergence books, okay, like magazine. One of the I want to take this opportunity to thanks Dr. Shubhashini. She has a very good informative parental handbook which for autistic daddy mummy you children you all can have a look, right? So one of the chapter that really I enjoy reading is focus in the children uniqueness, right? What is the core, instead of like looking at their deficit, right? So as a parents, you know your children well. You know that what is their pro in them, right? So develop, their skill set on that. So that is about my sharing. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. How lovely. So, I mean, as mentioned, really, misconception can really lead to a lot of misunderstanding. And that's why we are here today, right? So back to Xuyan, what do you wish teachers, doctors, or employers understood about your child?
Every student they have a different learning style. Like I agree with what Joanne shared just now. Some children, their learning style is through kinesthetic learning. Some they like hands-on, some through auditory, some they need visual aid, right? So, especially neurodivergent children, they really needs a different method to guide them to learn, right? Because I strongly believe every children deserve for education. So teacher itself, we have to take initiative, right, to actually guide them through, try different type of approach, right, so that the children can learn. So in the slide there, this is one of the training that I conducted for the PPKI teacher training workshop. So one of the topic that I will share with the PPKI teacher is let's look at the areas of how do we get guide different type of neurodivergence children learning. So they share with me what is their challenges, right? So let's like brainstorming, right, case study, and how do we overcome it? Because with that, right, we can actually guide the children, to improve through, right, their milestone gap. So that is for teachers. So for doctors, I just want to share for my first doctor diagnosis experience for my child is about like an hour. So when I see the second doctor, it was like about 20 minutes. So the assessment and the consultation. So because this is a possibility of neurodivergence diagnosis, right? So actually I personally felt that 20 minutes just for like Caden, in order for him to sit still back then when he was in his toddler stage, right, would already take 10 minutes, right? So I will really hope that my hope is for the doctors, like what Dr. Shubhashini also shared with us just now, that acknowledge the parents' feeling. Actually, parents are here is because they are committed to support their child. They want to help their children. So and they can feel it actually if they've been like rushed off in the process. Okay, so this is my sharing about doctors. So for employment, so I have been like dedicated my time like for the past few years for my autistic son during his very critical development ages, his golden age, right? Some of them call. So I witnessed him improve his development milestone a lot. So and the gaps also narrow down. There still have a lot of room to improve, but the timing when I feel that is right time for me to back to workforce, and just coincidence, there's this headhunter from Singapore actually contacted me. There is this opportunity for an American company for a regional role. So I went through 3 rounds of interview, and I'm very grateful that I have the offer, and now I'm working for that company. So, but on the other hand, I have very close, like comrades, very close neurodivergence parents, okay, children parents, that they are struggling to go back to the workforce, right? So, I would like to sincerely that hope the employers, appreciate or value the experience of special needs parents, neurodivergence parents, they have very good experience. Like they are very resilient. Okay, they never give up. They are very positive thinking, and and many positive value that they can bring into the workforce, bring into your company, right? So because through your understanding, these parents able to have fun. When they work, they have income, and then they can fund their children to the necessary therapies that doctor suggested them to go, right? So this is for the doctors. um yeah, so this is my sharing.
And I'm sharing as a mother of a 15-year-old teenager. Okay. First, to address to doctors, if there are any doctors here in the Dr. Subhashini tak payah. You already is a developmental pediatrician. But for doctors or who know of other doctors' friend, I would say, first, learn about Down syndrome beyond the outdated textbook. The no checklist. Look around, okay? Learn about other children or even adult born with Down syndrome. They are able to make a difference and share with first-time parent. This is very important. Just like I got my ray of hope when I found this Sujit design, yeah, some 15 years ago. It was very important. And then I would also like the doctor who are able to actually guide new parents to more resources, just like what Dr. Subhashini was sharing, where to get information and resources. Like I'm very lucky, my doctor signed up all the document, given me all the information about Kiwanis Down Syndrome Foundation. So my son had a very good start and a very, I would say, great support since he was a baby. And then, yep, I also hope in general, the doctor also share about what are the preparation for parents. Not so negative, but in anticipation. Like now that I have a son, 15 years old, my gynae will always call me, Ashley, I have this and this new mom just had a child diagnosed with Down syndrome. Can you please contact her? Or can I ask your permission to get your number? So these are the things that doctor can do. Connect new parents to other parents in the form of a parent support. Yeah. And then also I would like to see more developmental pediatrician. Yeah. More doctor like Subhashini. Choose this how to say a very specialized area to able to provide more accessibility to more family. We are very fortunate in Klang Valley. We do have a few waiting queue can be up to 2 years, but out of Klang Valley there is virtually none. We need that. We really need that. And then, as I mentioned, doctor is the first contact point of all parents. Please have more empathy. Yeah. And also, this really gives us the hope. Now back to teachers, if there are any teachers over here. And please assess the child before closing the door. Yeah. Give the child an opportunity to be able to learn, to grow together with neurotypical environment. So I'm very grateful that my son was given this. He really have very great 11 years of childhood that he truly enjoyed in a very warm, inclusive environment. And then to employers, as my son is teenager, I hope, if some of you are from corporate or even from government body, work together with special educator or job coach such as Joanne from Employable or other organization, provide the financial mean and also support so that children who have completed their 12 years basic education or even like 15, 16 years of PPKI, that transition is very, very important. Set the foundation for the next phase of their life so they can become an independent and contributing adult.
Yes, definitely. I need to be more empathetic. Okay. So, what the next question? How have you helped others to understand and accept your child's differences? Ashley.
Yeah. So last month we have just celebrated the Down Syndrome Awareness Month. So we have like World Down Syndrome Day on March 21st. I actually volunteer in my son's school to share about Down syndrome. And then when he's younger day, I prepare information about him to the school, to all the therapies, the center that he joined activity. As you can see here, he's now 15 years old. He just completed 2 marathon to raise fund for the Kiwanis Down Syndrome Foundation. So I organize a lot of playgroup for my son together with neurotypical children. I let him assist in community project. I involve him. For example, he has this project kindness where he will raise fund for good causes, and then he pack toys and books to send to hospital, to send to hospice or welfare home. So when he get involved, he get to meet new friends, new parents. I also work closely with the parents of other children, whether it's neurodivergent or typical. And then during the MCO, we actually started Facebook online bakery. There was a time that he can't go for any therapy. So we did our own home-based purposeful occupational therapy. We used the money that we raised to actually support good causes of community. And then we share about our journey. So indirectly, when we are sharing all this activity, we give hope, just like what Sujit have shown me. So other parents who have seen that journey of Alex wrote to us to thank us, to say, yes, you create a big awareness in the community. Then we also, this little boy, he's actually quite famous. He's a little celebrity in the neurodivergent community. He was actually interviewed in the TV, in the newspaper. So when people see him, it actually opened up, they will come forward to be an advocate, to speak about neurodivergent, because my son is a testimonial, is a living testimonial of the neurodiversity and the benefit of inclusion. Yeah. So last year he received this Tuanku Bainon Young Changemaker Award, and in 2 weeks' time he will be receiving another award from the Kiwanis Malaysia, the Tan Sri Q Johari Award, for contributing back to his alma mater, the Kiwanis Down Syndrome Foundation School National Center. And this is what I would like to share.
As an active advocate, I help to promote acceptance and share those meet in my daily life. So, for example, recently I enrolled my son for a Bahasa tuition. So I'm very upfront. I told the Bahasa teacher that Caden is a neurodivergent. Okay, so for example, there are times that he have limited eyes contacts, but it's okay. Actually, he's very auditory. He's listening to you. So, and also, after I share information with my bestie about like along the way Caden's journey, and we also talk a lot about neurodivergence, exchange our idea, and I was happy that I can go back to university again. During my career break together with my bestie, feel young again, and to enroll for a special needs program. So today, my bestie, she's one of the advocates in her own local chapter. So as you can see in the slide, I always encourage my son to spend time and interact with people in his local community. For examples, that Caden participate in the Nazom Inclusive Run just now, like as you can see in the photo. And recently, he also joined the Children's Kids Art Exhibition for the inclusive exhibition. And I'm very happy for him that his art piece was selected as well. And also, uh, recently also we raised fundraising for Nazom. Okay, so he helped our family members to bake a cookie so that have fun to buy the tickets for the fundraising as well. So I always say that Kaden, let's join us for our local chapter event so that people gets to know you and more people will get to know about neurodivergence. So parents, don't hide your child at home, right? So be proud of your child. They also have their own unlimited potential.
Thank you, Suyen and Ashley. Well done, isn't it, to Alex and Jaden? Yes, we do agree. They're both amazing, isn't it? Okay, good. So let's move on to our third section. Yeah. Okay. So life beyond school, employment and independence. So what is the future like? So if you take a moment, think back after we finish our school, we have to get out, get a job, and you're all left alone thinking what to do. Sounds familiar, right? So what do you think, or how do you think a child with disability or neurodivergence would feel, isn't it? So back to Joanne. So you have dedicated your career to helping children with neurodivergence, transition into adulthood, and that's a huge task, isn't it? So if you can share with us, what is the best way to prepare neurodivergent youth or for adulthood?
So the blanket statement would be that whatever you teach your neurotypical child, you teach your neurodivergent child. As simple as that. But here are a few main things that I think are quite essential that we should maybe focus on. Firstly, teaching these real life and functional skills. It's not always about academics. It's things like time and money management, communicating with others, problem solving, following routines. These are very essential in adulthood, as you all would know, and also in a workplace setting. So all this, if we can start from young and build on those skills, that would give them very good leg up, right, when they get into adulthood. So I want to ask, like, how many of you here still struggle with like remembering what to do, that you still procrastinate, you cannot finish your work on time? Because I know I still struggle with all of that. Yeah. And for a neurodivergent individual, all these skills like planning, prioritizing, organizing, these are all executive functioning skills. I'm not sure if you are familiar with that term. But executive functioning is what you need to do all these things. So actually, even for a typical person, it takes up to 25 years of age before you really hone those skills. So for a neurodivergent person, this is particularly hard. So if we build it from young and give them the strategies that they can use, that would be great. So like for myself, example, I still use my reminders app on my phone all the time. I have like a million reminders. I use Google Calendar, put in my meetings, my events, so I don't forget anything. I still actually write down my to-do list so I have a visual and I can tick that off. I use timers, and to just keep myself on task. So these are all tools that we also use at Employable to help and train these individuals. So if they are easy tools for us to use, then let's teach our neurodivergent youth as well. Why should we stop them from using those, right? Then the next thing would be self-awareness and an understanding of oneself. When you're someone who knows your strengths, you know what are like areas that you need help with, you know what kind of strategies that will work for you, right? What kind of support you can get for yourself. Then you have a better understanding of yourself, and then you're able to voice out for your needs better. So when we teach our neurodivergent youth, and we teach them this understanding of themselves, they are then able to voice out and communicate for their needs. Because a lot of times we have seen many candidates come through who have just been too afraid to ask for things that they need, even though they know where they need support with. So if we are able to help them self-advocate, that would be a great thing. Because the other side of it is also to speak up when something is not right, especially now in this day and age. Issues like bullying, abuse, harassment, scams, they're all very real and very terrifying issues. So even for a neurotypical child, it's very scary, right? So what more even a neurodivergent child? So, you need to address all these issues from a young age, and just help them understand that these are, what is wrong, what is right, what is bad, what is good, so that when anything untoward happens to them, they are able to speak up and, tell an adult. Finally, I think it's also very important to instill confidence, teach them resilience, and also build independence. Our society's mindset, like, we were just saying, it's still very negative, right? Very focused on, what they cannot do and all these deficits. So very sadly, what we have seen is that this gets internalized by a lot of these neurodivergent young adults that come to us. So it's maybe from like a bad schooling or working experience. That trauma kind of gets generalized to every environment that they come into. So, for example, we had a MBA graduate come to us. Okay, so these are all like candidates who, are very skilled, very capable, have degrees, and then they all just lack confidence. So this MBA graduate, he came to us and he wasn't able to tell us like what his strengths were because he just felt like he wasn't good at anything. He said, I think I'm good at speaking English and I think I'm good at using Microsoft Office. But hey, you are an MBA graduate. You can do so much more than that. But when we dug deeper, it was because of a quite nasty supervisor he had at the previous work experience. So then it made him just like internalize that, hey, I'm not good at anything. I have got no strengths. And then after that, we had this other candidate who also came through after having a very unsupportive environment at work. And his confidence was just so shaken. I think we don't realize like sometimes the words that we use, even though we don't think it's harsh, they take it quite literally, right? So that got internalized as well, and then he had trouble, just trying to find his foot again. So if we can try to normalize mistakes with our neurodivergent youth, normalize and tell them it's okay to make mistakes, that everything is a learning pathway, that everyone's success and journey will look different, that it is okay as long as you know what you're good at and you know how to, communicate for your needs. That is very important because while we are still trying to change society's mindset, it's also very important that we teach our neurodivergent youth to really handle the realities of life. Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you mentioned the environment that really disables them. I think it's truly brutally honest, isn't it? So we are the environment. We are responsible, to create that inclusive society, isn't it? Yeah. So what practical steps can companies, look at companies now, to take to become more inclusive to people of different abilities?
Okay. Like echoing on what Dr. Subha said, and I think mums as well. Education and knowledge is very important. So, firstly, as a company, just learn as much, and try to understand as much as you can about neurodivergence, neurodiversity, and inclusion. There is a difference between like knowing and also understanding, because you can hear about autism, you can hear about ADHD, about Down syndrome, but to really understand in detail, what they are really going through or what they are really experiencing is a very different, separate issue. So like even at our employables disability education and training that we do for companies, we try to do and include as many simulation activities as possible, because then participants really get to feel or to get a sense of what it's like to have a sensory overload, what it is like to maybe have challenges processing certain information, what it is like to maybe read something but actually not really comprehending these things, right? So having these awareness sessions is a very good start. And I also am a firm believer in listening to the neurodivergent individuals themselves. We can really learn a lot from their lived experiences. And when you engage in conversation with them and you ask them questions, you really get a full holistic understanding of them. And when we know better, then we can do better. So the next thing is adjusting the recruitment processes. So even something simple, let's start with, a disability-friendly job advertisement. So having fonts that are readable, making it known that, you are a disability-friendly workplace. You can actually state that people with disabilities are welcome to apply. So it's very clear for them, and you have very clear work requirements or your job descriptions. So there is no like second guessing for them, right? The next thing is to, through that hiring process, maybe having alternatives to your interviews. So not everybody does well with a face-to-face interview. It can be very it might give them social anxiety. So if you can have alternatives like skills-based assessments or maybe work trial areas where you can actually see them in the job, that might be a better alternative. If you really do need to have face-to-face interviews, then a simple thing like sending them the questions beforehand, maybe a few days before the interview, will give them time to process and then prepare for the answers. And then you even allow the job coach in to be there at during the interview as well. That could be very helpful. Um, at the end of the day, it's about what the skills and abilities are for that job, right? So, for example, if you are interviewing for a research job, then having very good customer relations is not probably not the priority, right? As long as they are able to do that job, they have the skills and ability to do that research and to produce what you need, you get the job done. Yeah. And lastly, we always tell companies to start small. Start with one hire. Then, when you feel confident, then you hire another person. A lot of people think like, oh, I have to hire 10 at one go, and I have to make a lot of changes. But that's really not the case. In reality, actually, just minor changes are needed. For example, maybe a sensory accommodation. So if let's say you have a what's that called, like a noise-free zone or a noise-free room where an individual can just go there to decompress for a while. If you have maybe different work setups, so if your office has like a hot desk situation, then you just have like one or two cubicles to the side so that they have a bit more privacy. You can also give flexible working arrangements if that's possible. So maybe different working hours and maybe some work from home days. So these simple things could just reduce their cognitive and sensory load already. So sometimes it's just these minor changes that we can do. This year, I moderated a panel with 3 other neurodivergent working adults, and they all had one main thing in common, and they all said clear communication from my supervisors or my team members. It's just as simple as that, clear communication. Who among us here doesn't like clear communication, right? Like when you have clear communication, you don't second guess yourself. You're not asking questions over and over again, trying to like think, am I getting this right? So sometimes it's just simple things, simple accommodations and flexibility that could make the world a better place for everybody. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So, to all the CEOs, managers, tauke so, please, you got Joanne's message. Let's have the courage, to really start, be take the first move to be inclusive in your company, even in your, little setup, whatever business you're doing. That is our first step, our responsibility, isn't it? So, can you share, some example of success stories of inclusive employment you have seen, and what can employers learn from them? Yeah.
Okay. So I thought I would highlight one supported employment story and 2 other inclusive employment story. Maybe you can have this. Okay. Okay. So individual A. We'll start with individual A. So he's under our supported employment, and when we say supported employment, it's basically you need ongoing support at employment. Okay, so maybe a term that you are maybe more familiar with is sheltered employment. Yeah, so it's pretty much the same. So when individual A came to us, he was out of school for about, I think, at least 2 years, because due to COVID and everything being online, he wasn't able to sustain learning online, and that was the case for a lot of our neurodivergent students across the board. So when he came to us, he was like, very big teenager already. He was out of school for at least 2 years, and as a non-speaker, he was communicating through a lot of distressing behaviors. So he hated coming to Employable, like because suddenly he came to Employable and he had to do work and then he had to follow instructions. It's like, hey, I stay at home and I can just laze on the couch, right? But we kept persisting, and then we put in clear boundaries and expectations in place for him. And then you just started like seeing this joyful, playful, cheeky young man start to come out. So it's like peeling back layers of onions, right? And And so what he does very well is like with very structured and routine things. So he knows. So under our supported employment, we get like packing jobs for maybe event companies. We get gift companies coming to us. So they get the work done either in our center or in the office of our client. And we call him now our star packer because he works very fast once he knows what he needs to do. And to date, in I think close to 1.5 years, he has earned up to about 3,000, if not more. And that might seem a bit small for some people, but for him, it was the start of something. Um, I still remember the like his mom's face when he first got his first paycheck, right? Because she just was in so much disbelief because she never thought that he could even earn anything, right? So I think one thing we can take away from this story is that, you know, to never give up, to keep persisting, and when you believe in them, they too will believe in themselves. Yeah, and I think that also holds true for all of us. Next is individual B. She's the one in the headscarf, and she has Down syndrome, and she loves working with young children. So from the get go, when she came to us, she knew she wanted to work with children, and so now she is currently in a kindergarten. She supports. She's a teaching assistant in the kindergarten, and she helps the head teacher with tasks like feeding the children their lunch, showering, dressing, preparing their learning materials, their arts and craft material, cleaning up wherever needed. And she just adores her students. You know, every time she talks about her students, her face just lights up. And one thing we can learn from this story is to always keep an open communication. So her boss, which is also the principal of the school, has been very supportive from day one. Right. You know, she was like, yes, let's give it a go, you know, let's try. Then first I think they started with once a week, and then it was like twice a week, and now she goes in like 4 times a week. And having that open communication with the principal, the job coach, employee able team, you know, everything, we are able to provide that support system to that company, to that kindergarten. And so every time anything comes up, you know, she can tell us, and then we can address it very quickly with individual B. Lastly, we have individual C, who is currently working in a warehouse for machinery parts. He's the one in gray. So he has ADHD, and this job is perfect for him because they learn and pick up things so fast. And so he already, like, I think day two of the job, he already learned like where everything goes. It's like, you know, there's so many aisles and so many racks, and even I, as his job coach, I'm still like, oh, where are these things, you know? But he picked it up super fast. And this job is so perfect for him because, you know, a desk job is not the proper fit for him. So this job, he can stand up, go around, pick and pack items as needed. And so with him, he has been assigned a buddy. So usually at Employable, what we do is we assign a work buddy, and that work buddy is someone that the individual can go to for support. And also the buddy will keep the individual accountable, because while they are neurodivergent, we are also saying, hey, you also need to treat them as any other staff, right? So you, if that's his job, then you need to hold him accountable to the job. Doesn't mean that he is neurodivergent, then he can have like extra breaks, like without, you know, without any reason, or, you know, he can do whatever he likes. That's not it, right? So he still needs to get his work done. So the buddy is holds him accountable for the job. And, you know, just the team in general has been very, very welcoming. And I want, if any companies and bosses, you know, to take away from this is to have a growth mindset. So his boss said, yes, we'll start in this role, and then once he gets adapted to it, we can see what other responsibilities we can add on to it. So having that mindset that he can grow in that role, that, you know, he can hold on more responsibilities is good, because he's not thinking like, oh, just because he's a neurodivergent, he can only do these things, right? He cannot grow in that role. So I think that's something that we can also take away as a company. Lastly, I would just like to add that inclusion without any opportunities will be is ineffective, right? So while we push for inclusion, we also need to make sure that we have the opportunities for them. We have, opportunities for them in the schools, in the companies, in society at large, so that everybody can contribute to society as all of us. So I'd like to close with
Thank
that.
you. Yes, absolutely. So we all agree the stories that you showed were truly inspiring and really heartwarming, isn't it? Okay, good. So to Xiuyan and Ashley. So as parents, after listening to Joanne, what kind of support do you hope to see more in our community as your child grows up, Xiuyan?
Like the saying, it take a village to raise a child. So my wishes are to have more inclusive school environment for our neurodivergent children. So next will be to have more opportunity in terms of job that really recognize and also able to accommodate neurodiversities. And lastly will be on the corporate social responsibility. uh, I know that a lot of company they have this section. They might have like for their different type of projects, maybe can consider some programs for neurodivergence, be it children, teenager, or also adults.
And I would like to share early intervention, make it more accessible across the whole country. We truly need, because the first 6 years of any child development, be it typical or neurotypical, really is the foundation. And to have more social enterprise step up. We have United Voices, we have Employable, Tender Heart Cafe, Autism Cafe project. So we need to have more support because it's very costly to run such a project, and they are doing it at a very, I would say, affordable way. So if you have like a GLC or even company or even government bodies, please supply the financial support so that more job can be created instead of giving to foreign or migrant worker. Why not create the job opportunity for neurodivergent adult? So that's my wish list that I would like to see.
Yes, definitely. All of us can do it. Remember all the tauke, all that out there. Okay, so let's go to the last section. Okay, so this is the bringing it together, community action. So this is for all four of us. Sorry, all four of you. Just to bring all of us back in. There's this big question. If you could ask the community to take one simple step towards creating a more inclusive and caring society, what would it be, Dr. Suba?
I think perspective taking is very important. So if you, in any situation, you sort of imagine if I were that person, what would I want for me? How would I feel supported? How would I like to be heard? Then it's much easier to be able to accept. It's easier to be able to be empathetic. So I think that's very important. It has to start with the individual.
I think be an ally and challenge those negative mindsets that are discriminating the neurodivergent community, to keep sharing with other people anything you've learned. So like today, I hope you've learned something from either one of us, and then I would like to challenge you to go out there and then share it with the people around you.
Be an advocate, be a friend, an alliance together, and then I will emphasize again, help, okay, in activity or fundraising or supportive activity to make early intervention truly, truly accessible for all children born with neurodivergent and disabilities.
So inclusion doesn't always need a big budget or a big policy. Um, it starts with awareness, empathy, a small act, with a little bit more patience, and ask question. Don't make assumptions, right? So, for example, telling our children to embrace differences, or in your local chapter, is there is an NGO community, right? If they have an event, just join them. Have a fundraising. Let's support them. This can go a long way.
Thank you. Thank you very much to all our panelists for sharing the individual personal journey, their wisdom, and their passion. For me, I've been really touched, by their amazing stories and their dedication, and I hope all of us feel the same way too. But what's next? Together, let's keep building an inclusive and caring society. It's not just the responsibility of a few, but it's a commitment from all of us. We can ask ourselves daily, what can I do every day to make a constructive difference in our life for other people, for to be inclusive? Like they say, let's be the village, beaming with a positive mindset to raise every child to their fullest potential, where every, child or adult, feel that they're being treasured from within. So thank you very much.
Thank you to all our speakers and moderator for such an insightful and inspiring discussion. So I hope all of you had a very meaningful takeaway and also fresh perspectives that will continue to spark conversations long after today's session. So now I do think we have a little bit of time. So we'll now be moving into our Q&A session. So if you have a question, kindly make your way to the microphone stand along the aisle of this hall. We'd love to hear your thoughts and questions. And let's take this opportunity to learn from each other. Anyone? Ah, there you go.
What a wonderful forum. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the panel, organizers, and everybody. And truly touching to hear about Alex's and Caden's great success. The point I want to ask was raised by Miss Joanne regarding the issue of bullying and how we can overcome it by creating a society which is very inclusive. But the reality is it's not easy to actually abolish bullying. It is a huge problem, and we see that more and more today. I just want to share very briefly that the SGI president Ikeda once said that in the situation of a bully, and I'm not sure whether Caden and Alex has gone through that, but certainly if they have gone through it, they have won over it. And they've certainly become a real example of being victorious over any kind of exclusion or bullying in society. Dr. Ikeda said that in the situation of a bully, the person who's bullied but is not defeated is the victor, whereas the person who actually bullies becomes the defeated person. So this is actually a very encouraging thing. So I just want to ask if the panel have got any thoughts or feelings about how we can overcome this very difficult issue of bullying in society. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. Okay,
Can I share my own experience? I'm very grateful. All this while, my son is the one that bully other people. No, they all really, really manja and sayang and really love him. But it does have I do have one incident that just happened about last year. He went to this theme park to play with children. So typically any child born with Down syndrome, in general, they like to hug. They like to really very friendly. So he was playing with this child who is about 3 years old. And then at the end of this session, then he just went there and hugged him. And then he also have some issue where he cannot control the strength. So probably he might be hugging a little bit hard. And that moment, the father of the child just came from behind, just hit him on his head. Boom, 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 So it was really hard, It's like when you see such a thing. And we did not really fight back, but we just said he's a neurodivergent child and he actually just want to say goodbye to your son. That's all. After that, I actually shared among friends and also educator. Particularly, I share about this incident. For me, I do not judge or I do not get angry. Instead, I say, take it as a wake up call. So we should have more, how to say, embrace neurodivergent get to understand, because I believe at that point the father might have misconception. They thought my son might be hurting his son, but in reality it is not. So I hope all this myth about neurodivergent can be really, how to say, dismissed, so that we really get to know, unable to understand. And then at the same time, I also mentioned that I'm happy in the way that my son see the real world. So my son, instead of I tell him, don't hug people, don't go and kiss, kiss, kiss. He had that tendency. Yeah, I said, you see, not everybody like to be hugged. So he took it as an opportunity to learn. That's my sharing. Dr. Suba?
I think one aspect we can't really ignore is social media. That's a big factor now, especially. And I think that's also why this issue of bullying is getting worse. Because sometimes in some circles, this bullying is actually celebrated. Like they sort of egg each other on. And it's a very strange world online. And I think that's what parents can do is maybe monitor that a little bit. Of course, you can't monitor everything. And it's easy for us to tell parents, you should go and check. But I think it's also maybe everyone needs to listen to kids a little bit more from very young, because they're less likely to look for other sources of validation if they are heard. Of course, it doesn't mean that parents fail or anything like that. It's just that there are lots of factors, and that's one of the things that they need to feel supported. The other thing is, I think if people feel good about themselves, they don't feel the need to bully other people. But I think that sense of self-worth is a big challenge now, because a lot of people have very fragile sense of self, and we're seeing it a lot in especially the younger people. So I think that that's one of the factors as well. Of course, there's no quick fix, but maybe just trying to be aware of these things so that you can identify issues. Some of the very young children are now playing very violent games, and sometimes we detect that in clinic when we see them drawing some very strange things. And then when you explore a little bit more, it's an online thing. So I think some of you probably would have heard about the issue recently with Roblox and things like that. So a lot of that is also because there's predatory kind of behavior online. So again, everybody just needs to be aware to monitor what kids are doing.
Yeah. So I think so all that is really good, but that is like from the society's kind of point of view, right? So like how we can change the mindset of society. But maybe I'll talk a bit more from like, let's say, a practitioner point of view for a neurodivergent child, because it is very scary, and like how can we protect them the best way that we can, because we cannot change what society is going to do, and how other children are going to act. So I think it's just really like drilling in them like the differences between like what is good and what is bad, so that they understand, so that when something happens to them, they know, oh, this is a bad thing, like people shouldn't do this to me. Oh, this is okay, like this thing is okay, like if they treat me like that, this is fine, this is safe, right? So when they know what is not safe, so unfortunately we have to teach it like that lah, like a very clear cut, because they are very clear cut people, right? They're very straight people, so you have to teach it very straight to them. If someone is acting like that to you, this is bad. If someone says this is bad. So we do not engage in this kind of behavior, or we don't give them the, we just don't engage in them, walk away. So something like that. So it just has to, you have to teach it like to them very, very clear cut. And something we do also is a lot of role playing, a lot of simulation. I know it's really hard to role play and simulate like so many different instances, but we try as best as we can, because when they are able to practice these scripts, right? So when you do role playing, you can say, okay, if in this situation, this is how you can respond. This is what you can say, or this is what you can do. So having that role play will also help them kind of practice that. And so when they are in that setting, they will hopefully be able to remember some of these steps, and then kind of like, okay, I should do this, and I should do this, and then I do this. Yeah, so kind of giving them like strategies like that.
And that is teaching the neurodivergent
Yes, the
children, isn't it?
neurodivergent.
Very direct, clear communication. to
Yes,
them.
clear communication. Like, I know sometimes it's really hard, and because they also struggle with like how do I say, social nuances, and there's so many nuances in everything we do, right? Like sometimes we teach them, but then we are like, oh, if I teach them like that, but what if something like that happens? It's also okay. But it's hard. It really is hard, but so sometimes you just have to kind of like know if it's like this, it's like this, and if it's good, it's good, if bad, it's bad. Yeah, sometimes that's just like the easiest way that you
Quite
can do
black
it.
and white. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we do have two more questions from our webinar friends. So Jess, I guess this one is directed to Dr. Subhashini. Right. So it says, my friend's daughter is 4 years old now, but she still can't speak. She can only say papa and mama. She refuses to play with her classmates in kindergarten. Is this considered autism?
Thank you for the question. It does sound like the child may be neurodivergent, but I think it's difficult to make that assessment with just that amount of information. So it would still be good at 4 years if she's not saying that much that she get an assessment. But I think because we all know wait lists are long, one thing you can do is maybe get your general pediatrician or general practitioner to do a hearing test, because that can be done first. And if those issues can be addressed, she may start to speak. So, if hearing impairment is an issue, we need to address that. And of course, it's still good to go and get an assessment. But but maybe I'll add, in the meantime, you can do things like cut down screen time, do shared reading, do activities, or even what we call play commentary. When the parents play with the child, they can talk about things, describe. So have what is considered a language-rich environment. And by doing those kinds of things, it actually helps as well. Also, to some extent, even family meal times are important, those kinds of things, which a lot of parents are not doing now. So I think that can help in the interim.
Right. And last question. I would like to ask how I can contact the relevant person in charge. I think this is Joanne. It's about helping my 23-year-old child who has a rare disease. I really wish to know how I can find a suitable job or opportunity for him. Thank you. From Fong Ling.
Okay, so maybe I should have given you a QR code. We are employable, so you can look us up on on our website. EMPLOYABLE Malaysia, Employable Malaysia website, and also we're on Instagram at employable.my. Maybe if somebody on the webinar could put up the website for them, then maybe that. Yeah, so it's just come contact us, and usually we do like a pre-interview, and then maybe an assessment if needed, before we kind of see what kind of support we can give to the individual.
All right. So I guess we have come to the end of our forum. So thank you so much once again, everyone, for all your thoughtful questions and also participating so actively. This engagement sessions really is a really meaningful one, especially taking place on a beautiful Saturday morning. Thank you, ladies.